Merry Christmas, everybody. It's your boy, Z Money, aka Mr. 0-3, aka Captain Poopy Pants, and it is time for the Thailand special edition of Zachetology. Another season of the RBSL is in the books, and it's time for the best sim of the year. 16 teams enter, 8 teams leave, 8 teams move on. God's greatest invention to give to mankind. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the season. Let's talk about why your team's about to get smoked. I guess we can start with the league as a whole. This was another season of a small step towards parity, I feel. The West earned the dubious honor of sending a losing team to the playoffs. Congratulations, Bryant. By the way, I think formally that should mark the end of your playoff streak. Losing teams shouldn't be allowed to make the playoffs. While that is a sense of parity, both conferences sent one losing team to the playoffs. The West remains a little better than the East. The top of the West is still pretty packed. I think there's an argument to be made, like, if you account for injuries and stuff, that there's like 6 very good teams in the West. Like the Sonics, you could make a case that if Burnside never gets hurt, they might win 60, and they're the 6th seed. And I think the Clips are also quite good. And the Mavs had a big injury. While the East is really just the Nets and then a bunch of people who will get a crack at upsetting them, but probably won't. So we'll continue seeing if the East will ever step up to the big game. But maybe Itaewon could take a ring home for the conference. Anyways, let's get into the individual matchups. I got a little guidance here because usually I have a computer screen. But I didn't bring no computer to Thailand. So in the East, we've got the number 1 seeded Nets against the 8 seeded Knicks, classic New York showdown. The 2 seeded Cavs against the 7 seeded Magic. The 3 seeded Hornets against the 6 seeded Bucks. The 4 seeded Sixers against the 5 seeded Celtics. And then out west, we got the 1 seed Nuggets against the 8 seed Rockets. 2 seed Thunder, 7 seed Lakers. 3 seeded Grizz against my 6 seed Sonics. And then the 4 seeded Clips against the 5 seeded Mavs. But it is worth noting that matchup is going to be flipped. The Clippers won the Pacific for the 4th seed, but the Mavs won more games. So let's talk about the matchup. We'll start with the East. The first matchup we got is the 1 seeded Nets against the 8 seeded Knicks. Not a lot to talk about here. Itaewon is going to come in and he's going to smoke Oliver because Oliver's team is kind of trash. I think the story here is not to talk about Itaewon's team, which has 2 all-around superstars of Justin Watchman and Olin Harris, who are fantastic, a bunch of really good role players and guys like Dimitri Smith, Ciro Colfongo, The River, even Matty Grease. The story here is that Oliver made the playoffs, and whenever Oliver make the playoffs, that means other teams are fucking up. In this case, Tom and Kyle, I'd like to take a moment to address the camera directly and just ask you, what happened? How did this happen? You have to be better than the Knicks. Tom, why are you giving Adam the 10th pick in the draft? Kyle, I thought you were a good GM. I'm disappointed in all you guys. The Nets are going to win this series 4-0. Up next, we've got the Cavs versus the Magic. The Cavs, very similar team as the last season. I think the big change was the Ted Lasso trade, which I believe processed. I don't know if the process at the deadline last season, but anyways, he's had a full year with the team now. So it's the Presidio team, but there are some interesting guys. There's Ted Lasso, there's Tom Lewis, there's that big man, Efren Strong. The Cavs look like a pretty solid all-around team. I think they lack the super duper top end, like steroid talent. Presidio kind of comes close, but isn't quite that. Meanwhile, the Magic, it's not entirely clear to me why the Magic won 47 games and have a plus-minus margin of 6. I don't really like anybody on that squad. It's cool that they have Ivan Miller getting buckets for them. This, I think, is going to be another smackdown. I just really don't see the path to victory for the Magic at all. Like, I guess your dream is you get Seth Lee on Presidio and he's your best chance of shutting Presidio down, and that like Claudio Villanueva can somehow shut down Ted Lasso as the inside threat. But I don't see how Ken is going to score the points to win the series. So I'm thinking 4-1 Cavs, beat the Magic, move on. Jesse's kind of like a round 2 loss type guy these days. Although I can't hate, Jesse performed quite well last season in the playoffs, so hopefully he can provide some more upset magic. All right, next we have the Hornets, the 3 seed against the Bucks, the 6 seed. I feel like this might be a popular upset pick. The Bucks are obviously chock full of talent: Francois Santoro, Chance Roman, Wes Eastwood, Nolan Price, Renee Snyder. I mean, it's actually ridiculous how many elite prospects the Bucks have. The Hornets really only have 3 players. They've got the big man, Del Beck, who's not even like an elite big man. He's very good. I'd probably put him at like the 10th best, like a little worse than an all-star, but like better than like a well above average starter. And then Moody and the main guy, Rolfus Barlayer. I think like while the Bucks are a fun pick to want to pick, there are like holes in the Bucks that need to be filled before they're playoff ready. Most notably, defense at guard. Like if I'm Max, all I need to do is take Barlayer and put him at point guard, and then he's gonna get matched up against like Renee Price, who like, or Jesus Wood, who like Renee Snyder or Jesus Wood, excuse me, who are both midgets. They're like 6'1", 5'11". I don't care what their ratings are. Barlayer's like 6'8", 6'7", reasonable athlete. He's just gonna go for 40 every game, and even Moody could do it. So I think like the first step is Knowles actually gotta send in a game plan. Already a 10% chance that happens. If he doesn't do that, it's over. And then even if he does that, again, he's got these glaring holes. I really hope Noel does similar to what Idwin did and kind of consolidates his team a little bit. Uses what like these very high potential guys, sells them for guys that can help win games immediately. Because Noel reminds me a lot of the Nets before the Nets flipped the switch and sold everybody and like got Cade Cunningham in that first iteration. Or maybe did they get Joni Starry? No, that was the previous iteration of the Nets. So like when Idwin got Cade Cunningham with his most recent iteration, I'm hoping Noel does that same stuff. That would be great for him. So while I think people may be thinking the Bucks have a sneaky chance, I actually really don't think they have a sneaky chance. I don't love the Hornets. I think they're a super shallow team. I think their players can be stopped. But I think they do beat the Bucks. I'm feeling 4-2 Hornets over the Bucks on this one. Final East matchup, we've got the 76ers versus the Celtics. The 76ers have kind of taken a step back. It's just Mobley and Cade, the 2 top picks from whatever draft I made. While Mobley and Cade are still fantastic players, Cade is not quite what he once was. He's still very good, and there's literally nobody else on this team. I hate the rest of this team. Meanwhile, the Celtics, a very classic, young, growing Gasper team. Gasper, Penn, Granville de los Santos, 2 very good but not quite elite big men. This is going to be very interesting to see how they perform against Mobley. On the guard side of things, Joseph Valdez is the big guy. There's some interesting dudes like the variety of guys' names who I can't pronounce: Jurif Verbo, Skirf Slorber, and Slip Slaps, and Gregory Heeman. I think they're all solid but flawed. I think if I'm Zach from the future, 10 minutes in the future, I just realized my iPhone stopped recording the video as I was about to slander Jack and tell him that he's going to lose this series. So I'll cut straight to the chase. I think that while Cade could get a favorable matchup and Mobley could go ham, I think Jack's team is unbelievably shallow, and Gasper has a far stronger proven playoff record at this point. So I like the Celtics for the upset. So we're going to go 4-3 Celtics over the Sixers in an upset in the East. Sorry, Jack. Love you. Now let's head out west. The 1-seeded Nuggets against the 8-seeded Rockets. The Rockets suck. I don't know what Bryant's doing with his team. Like, if his case was that he wanted to extend his playoff streak, because Bryant and I, for those who don't know, I think are both sitting on the 2 longest playoff streaks of all time, and they're active. Mine is 1 or 2 seasons longer, but they're both like, we're approaching 20 seasons. It's really ludicrous. But even then, he barely even made it. He has a losing record. So like, if he sold out to do that, I don't think he did a very good job. In any case, it's not clear what his team is doing. He's got a bunch of these overpaid, questionably good guards that I don't love. The Nuggets I don't love either. I don't think the Nuggets are the best team in the West. I know they're the 1 seed, but I think they got some pretty favorable luck. I certainly like the Grizzlies and the Thunder more than them. Do I like the Mavs and the Sonics more? TBD. The injuries to both those teams were just so significant, it's really hard to know. If one of those healthy teams were to match up against the Nuggets, it would certainly be interesting. The home court might be enough to tilt for the Nuggets. But the Nuggets are still a very good team. I mean, we're splitting hairs. These are 60-win teams, and the Rockets suck. So the Rockets are going to get swept 4-0. Good luck with the churn, Bryant. All right, next we have the 2-seeded Thunder against the 7-seeded Lakers. I'd like to stop, take a pause, give a little clap, and congratulate Zach. Welcome to the playoffs. We love it when teams from the Pacific make the playoffs for the first time. Bring some good clout to our division. Ain't nobody ever going to be mad about that. Unfortunately, you've drawn the worst matchup in the entire league. Cody's team is fantastic. The big question for the Thunder coming into the season was whether or not Art and Justice would still be good. 30 million or 28 million is a lot to pay a guy who's 33, 34. But he's delivering so far. In the fill-in players, so there's obviously the big three: Isaiah Todd, Clint Cochran, and Art and Justice. But the fill-in guys, Constantinople, Ozymandias, Garland, Hurley, these are guys who are also playing their roles really well, and they don't have to score much or do anything else. They just got to play some defense, get a little boards, pass the ball. So the Thunder look like the clear best team in the West. The Lakers just don't have a lot good going on. I don't love them. They're going to get smoked. I couldn't even tell you a lot about the Lakers. To be honest, they're probably the team I've researched the absolute least in this entire segment. I don't even know if I looked at the Lakers once. They have that one guy, Francisco Pancorbo, whatever his first name is, Pancorbo, who's a nice guard, but he's getting old. So anyways, tough matchup for you, Zach. 4-0 for the Thunder. Better luck next season. I know you've been in the trade block trying to make trades. Hopefully they pan out well for you. All right, next we got the 3-seeded Grizz against the 6-seeded Sonics. If you had told me both of these teams at full strength were going to play each other, I'd probably talk about how this could be a real nail-biter. I don't hate the Grizz. The Grizz are definitely a worse aging version of what they've been. Arroyo is really on the fritz now, and Suggs is showing signs of regression to age. And they're obviously the driving force of this team. They do have the solid front court, Barrett Din, Alan Corpus. There's one other big man who I feel like I'm forgetting. But anyways, it's a solid team. And the Sonics, meanwhile, obviously have had quite an unfortunate season, starting off with all the TCs, especially to big free agent acquisition Zubero, along with just an unbelievable litany of bench players. So Zubero and George Bradley were the big hits, but there's a bunch of guys who could be playing on this team that now no longer can, like Clint Clark, like David McFarland, like that Richard Walden. I mean, it's really just insane. But still, despite the TCs, I think the Sonics still have a top 4 team in the West. That was until, of course, we lost Todd Burnside for, I want to say, over half the season. Todd Burnside, if the Sonics were to move on this series, would come back, and then the Sonics would be interesting again. But they have to figure out a way to win this series without him. Now, the sauce here is that Suggs is also injured. So we have these two teams without their two best players for, I think, the first 2 games of the season, maybe only 1 game. I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing Suggs is out for the first 2 games. So these two teams without their best players, who's better? I think the Sonics might be better. The Sonics have a pretty good, well-rounded squad. Losing Burnside, Burnside is absolutely that guy, as we saw, as the Sonics, although it started okay, definitely fell off near the end of the season without him. But Jules Jimenez and Will Nichols, they're not the worst replacements. They're kind of each represent a half of Burnside. Jimenez has the defensive Burnside. Will has the offensive Burnside. Burnside has them both at the same time, and just better. But I like the Sonics guards a lot better than the Grizz. I really it's hard to hate on Cletus. I think there's a lot of good reasons to like George Bradley. He's a fantastic defensive fill-in. So the problem is Suggs is going to come back after a couple games, and then the Grizz are unquestionably better. So the path to victory for the Sonics in this one, oh, watch out, Pepto, will be to win the very first 2 games. And then if they can win the first 2 games before Suggs comes back, although they're the distinctly worst team, they have to just win 2 out of the next 5. Now, can the Sonics win an away game in Memphis against a team without Suggs twice in a row? I don't know. It's possible. I wouldn't say it's favored, but it'll be an interesting matchup. This is going to be a really weird one because the lineups are going to be messed up because of injuries. I don't really know what to expect, so it's hard to make matchup style predictions on this one. I think for the Grizz, you just get Suggs back in and dominate. For the Sonics, I think Cletus has to be that guy. He's had a fantastic season. He's been a little bit unlocked with the new game plan the Sonics have been running. Evan is cooking up the game plan and depth chart for the Sonics in this series because I'm in Thailand and I haven't looked at the program in a couple of weeks. So, Evan can get a little mad scientist with this one. I told him he's got nothing to lose YOLO. This season is already lost, so let's make a little magic happen. All that being said, Grizz win 4-2 over the Sonics. The Sonics will have to continue to churn. Maybe the guy we got from the Grizz can save things. Finally, we have the Clips versus the Mavs. The Clips are the 4 seed, but they're playing as the 5 seed. The Mavs will have home court. 2 solid teams. The Clips, the big thing is Beelzebub is the new big addition, and he's been fantastic. 20 points a game, 65% true shooting, looking really good. For the Mavs, this is the exact same team it's always been. Carmichael Brown is just a little better. The frickin' Greek shooting guard, whose name I'm completely blanking on right now, Cristiano Maras, there it is. He's a little better. Rick Bong, Al Mustafa, they continue to be solid. Jonathan Ratliff, solid. I think the big matchup here is, can Beelzebub make Carmichael Brown foul out? Beelzebub is going to go inside a lot. Carmichael Brown is like a 3 fouls a game guy right now, which is like, it's not foul problems. It's not like a Roger Bechtel or a Fred Miller. But like, if you're Doc, you go 10 pace, you go heavy inside, focus on Beelzebub, and like, can you get 1 or 2 games where you foul out Carmichael Brown? Maybe. And that's all it takes, because you can probably win a game or 2 just like Jamie Jones and Balotelli go off. Like, that's all it takes. So I don't think it's favored, but if I'm Doc, I think that's the strategy I'm aiming for. Meanwhile, if I'm Michael, slow the game down, feed the ball to Morris. Doc does not have great matchups in the perimeter to stop Morris. Like, Roman Balotelli, not super athletic, not great defensive ratings. Jamie Jones, while he has better ratings and more athleticism, is short as hell. So I love Morris as a guy against either of those two. I don't love Morris in the grand scheme of things because there are teams that have 6-7 defenders. Doc just doesn't happen to have them. Like, Doc would either have to be really bold and put Ira Dean at shooting guard or point guard as a wild attempt to stop the Mavs, which I think is a bad idea. Like, at some point you got to play the game that your team is good at. And by doing that, I think Morris could easily be going for an efficient 35 a night with, again, and also have Carmichael Brown. And I don't think Carmichael Brown will be stopped conventionally. I think it'll be a fouls thing. Beelzebub can get blocks, but like, Carmichael Brown is a 62% true shooting, 20 points per game guy, and Beelzebub has like D post defense or like C post defense. So he'll get some blocks, but that's it. So at the end of the day, I like the Mavs here. I think it'll be a close series. I'll take the Mavs 4-3 in a 7-gamer. Yeah. So, sorry, Doc. The Pacific eliminated in round 1. You hate to see it. But those are my predictions. Thank you for watching. I am going to go evacuate my bowels now because my tummy is grumbling, and it's about that time. So until next round, good luck, Merry Christmas, love ya, and toodles.